For the 20th century conflict in Northern Ireland, see the Troubles. For other uses, see Time of Troubles disambiguation. Smuta redirects here. For the video game, see Smuta video game. Painting of Kuzma Minin addressing a large crowd. Konstantin Makovsky's Appeal of Minin 1896 depicts Kuzma Minin against the background of the Church of St. John the Baptist appealing to the people of Nizhny Novgorod to raise a militia against the Polish invaders and Sigismund III Vasa. The Time of Troubles Russian, Romanized, Smutnoye Vremya, also known as Smuta Russian, lit. Troubles. One was a period of political crisis in Russia, which began in 1598 with the death of Fyodor I to the last of the House of Rurik and ended in 1613 with the accession of Michael I of the House of Romanov. It was a period of deep social crisis and lawlessness following the death of Fyodor I, a weak and possibly intellectually disabled ruler who died without an heir. His death ended the Rurik dynasty, leading to a violent succession crisis with numerous usurpers and false Dmitri's impostors claiming the title of Tsar. Russia experienced the famine of 16,011,603, which killed almost a third of the population within 3 years of Fyodor's death. Russia was also occupied by the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth during the Polish-Russian War and lost Smolensk. The Time of Troubles ended with the election of Michael Romanov as Tsar by the Zemsky Sober in 1613, establishing the Romanov dynasty, which ruled Russia until the February Revolution in 1917. Background: Tsar Fyodor I was the second adult son of Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia. Fyodor's elder brother, Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich, was the heir apparent. Fyodor was never considered a serious candidate for the Russian throne. However, Tsarevich Ivan was allegedly killed in anger by his father on the 19th of November 1581, making Fyodor the new heir apparent. According to Chester Dunning, Tsar Ivan knew perfectly well that Fyodor could not rule on his own. Before his own death in 1584, he set up a council of regents to govern in his son's name. Ivan named as regents to leading boyars Fyodor's uncle, Nikita Romanovich Zakharyan Yuriv, head of the Romanov clan, and Prince Ivan F. Mstislavsky. He also named to leading members of his own court, a premier prince of the blood, the popular and heroic Prince Ivan Petrovich Shuisky, and Fyodor's brother-in-law, Boris Godunov. On the day of the coronation, Boris was named Konyushi-Boyarin, Master of the House, or Equerry, a title that immediately identified him as the most powerful member of the Boyar Council. Prince Ivan Mstislavsky made a bid for power in 1585. He was stopped by the other regents and was forced to become a monk, which in Russia was an irreversible step. Out of this episode grew a tacit alliance between the Godunovs and the Romanovs to protect their family's interests. In 1586, after an anti-Godunov riot, aged Prince Ivan Shuisky was forced to become a monk and kept under heavy guard. Boris Godunov was now Tsar Fyodor's sole regent and the most powerful man in Russia. For painting of Ivan the Terrible weeping over the Tsarevich Ivan, his injured son Ilya Repin's Ivan the Terrible, and his son Ivan, 1885. Depicting the accidental killing of Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich by his father Ivan the Terrible, it made Fyodor I heir to the Russian throne. In the middle of the 16th century, Russia suffered famines, pestilence, and internal discord, which were accompanied by Ottoman-backed raids by the Crimean Khanate. In 1571, Devlet Ijai and his army ransacked its lands in the events known as Fire of Moscow. In 1591, as Ijai and his brother Fatih Ijai launched another raid in Russia, but they were completely defeated. This was the last trip of the Crimeans to Moscow. After Tsar Ivan's death on 28 March 1584, Fyodor was crowned as the Tsar 3 days later. The pious Fyodor took little interest in politics, ruling through Boris Godunov, his closest advisor, a boyar, the son-in-law of Malyuta Skirotov and the brother of Fyodor's wife, Irina Godunova. Fyodor produced one child, a daughter, Feodosia, who died at the age of 2. According to Dunning, at the outset of Tsar Fyodor's reign, Boris Godunov and other regents moved against a threat emanating from the court faction supporting Ivan the Terrible's youngest son, Dmitri, the child of Ivan's sixth and last wife, Maria Nagaya. In May 1591, Tsarevich Dmitri was reported to be dead. On the basis of testimony from several eyewitnesses, an investigative commission concluded that Dmitri had accidentally slit his own throat during an epileptic seizure that came on while he was playing with a knife for Palace in Uglik, where Tsarevich Dmitri lived and died in January 1598. Fyodor died According to Dunning, the Tsar's death without an heir brought to an end the only ruling dynasty Moscow had ever known. Irina abdicated the throne to the Boyar Council and entered a convent. The boyars convened a Zemsky Sobor to choose a new Tsar. Godunov soon prevailed over his chief rival for the throne, Fyodor Romanov. Godunov was crowned in September 1598, and according to Dunning, to help calm any discontent and to cement his claim to the throne, the new Tsar had himself elected after the fact by a Zemsky Sobor. After the Romanov conspiracy of 1600, Fyodor Romanov was forced to become a monk for 6,365. Boris Godunov has been called one of Russia's greatest rulers, according to Dunning. The man responsible for the expansion of Russia at the end of the 16th century was Boris Godunov. Yet in 1592, he had effectively enserfed millions, burdened the populace with heavy taxes, harassed the free Cossacks, and in 1597, introduced a slave law converting contract slaves into slaves for life. 4 1,547, 5,865. 73 Russia experienced a famine in 16,011,603 after extremely poor harvests, with nighttime temperatures in the summer months often below freezing. 5 Famine enveloped the country in 1602, followed by disease, claiming a third to two-thirds of the population. Hunger riots and the Klopko Rebellion of September 1603 also caused social instability. 6,871. False Dmitri, a painting of a confused scene of human suffering, Sergei Ivanov's In the Time of Troubles, 1886, according to Dunning. Russia's first civil war came about as a direct result of the bold invasion of the country by a man claiming to be Tsarevich Dmitri. Somehow miraculously rescued from the usurper Boris Godunov's alleged assassination attempt in 1591, and now returning to claim the throne from the illegitimate false Tsar Boris. 7,576 conspiracies were rampant after Fyodor's death. Rumors circulated that his younger brother, Dmitri, was still alive and in hiding despite official accounts that he had been stabbed to death at an early age, by accident or by Godunov's order. Russia's political instability was exploited by several usurpers, known as false Dmitris, who claimed to be the Tsarevich and heir to the Tsardom. False Dmitri appeared in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in 1603, claiming to be the heir to the Russian throne. According to Dunning, the source of the pretender scheme was a conspiracy among Russian lords. When Dmitri finally revealed himself in Poland-Lithuania in 1603, Tsar Boris openly accused the boyars of organizing the pretender scheme. There is, in fact, quite a bit of evidence linking the pretender to the Romanov clan. Dmitri had revealed his identity to the Ukrainian magnate Prince Adam Vishnevetsky, who helped him gain the support of the Zaporozhian and Don Cossacks. Yerzy Nizek housed Dmitri and helped secure several witnesses testifying him to be the Tsarevich Dmitri. 8,389 Official portrait of false Dmitri IC. 1606 Dunning notes, King Sigismund, Polish Catholic leaders, and the Jesuits soon took great interest in reports that Dmitri was considering conversion to Catholicism. They dreamed, among other things, of converting all of Russia and then using the Russians against Sweden. 488 By September 1604, Nizek, as Dmitri's commander-in-chief, had gathered about 2,500 men. On October 1604, they crossed the Poland-Lithuania border into Russia. According to Dunning, Dmitri's invasion in October 1604 triggered the first phase of Russia's first civil war, a massive rebellion of southwestern and southern frontier provinces, towns, garrisons, and Cossacks that grew into a much wider conflict that toppled the Godunov dynasty. 9091 After Godunov's death in 1605, false Dmitri made a triumphal entrance into Moscow and was crowned Tsar on the 21st of July. He consolidated power by visiting the tomb of Ivan the Terrible and the convent of Ivan's widow, Maria Nagaya, who accepted Dmitri as her son and confirmed his story. False Dmitri was married per procura to Marina Nizek on 8 May 1606 in exchange for promises of land grants and wealth. He converted to Catholicism, relying on Polish Jesuits and Polish nobles who were prominent at his court and on Nizek's private armies. 6.